Rasta, Ginikehi.
Chitihena.
Jenegi, Dajanehi. Jenegi.
Cái tổ này có chưa nữa chị.
Nó là chỉ gần hike, đó ha đó hít ada.
Yêu đó số ta chỉ đó hết. Chỉ muốn đâu yêu về sinh cho về sẽ. Yêu ta ni về. Hasta ese. Yêu tu ye to hết cái nốt là cái gì đó hết. Thì ta sẽ lên ở về sự dùng đủ cho đó hết. Oh, Joanna, what's the stars?
Ina ke woke do I usti.
Oh. Nu what then again then? Just done, eh? Oh.
1828. In the southeast United States, the Cherokee people had settled into a stable life. They lived in cabins, farmed, and spun cotton. They built schools and churches. They embraced many aspects of European life while living by their traditional ways. At one time, the land of the Cherokee people spanned what is now 8 states in the southern Appalachians. But from 1721 to 1819, the Cherokees relinquished much of their territory to the burgeoning United States, reducing the size of the Cherokee Nation by over 90%. During the 1700s, the Cherokees endured devastating smallpox epidemics and wars with the colonists. After the turn of the century, the Cherokee began to rebuild and transform themselves. They would establish a formal government with a police force and a court system. In 1827, the Cherokees wrote a constitution, and the next year they held a national election. Unlike any other North American tribe, the Cherokee people created their own written alphabet. Invented by a man named Sequoyah, it was so ingenious in its design, Cherokees could learn it quickly. The Cherokee people also published the first Indian newspaper, printed in English and Cherokee. The Cherokees lived prosperous and productive lives. But their neighbors in Georgia craved more land for their expanding population. They viewed the Cherokee Nation, its government and people, as a direct threat. Georgia did not have the legal right to move the Cherokees themselves, but that would change in 1828 with the election of Andrew Jackson as President of the United States. Regarding the Cherokees, he said,
"Established in the midst of a superior race, they must disappear."
Months after Jackson was elected, the Georgia legislature passed a series of laws taking away the civil rights of Cherokees within their borders. Cherokees could not testify in court. They could not meet in council. Their government was deemed illegal. The editor of the Cherokee newspaper, Elias Boudinot, expressed their outrage.
"Here is the secret, full license to our oppressors, and every avenue of justice closed to us. Yes, this is the bitter cup prepared for us."
The Cherokee people had little time to react before another troubling incident occurred. Gold had been discovered on Cherokee land.
That was mine. I found it. Look at this. We got anybody right? I'm the one that found it. You trying to hide grain on us? No.
Word spread quickly, and people from all over the country flooded into Cherokee land. If hunger for land or the fear of Cherokee sovereignty were not enough to rouse everyday Georgians against the Cherokee Nation, the lust for gold was. Within months, 4,000 white intruders were digging and panning for gold. Georgia then moved into Cherokee country with their own militia, the Georgia Guard. They arrested Cherokees who dared to mine gold on Cherokee land. Then in 1829, Southern congressmen introduced the Indian Removal Act into Congress. The bill called for the removal of all 5 Southern tribes, the Cherokees, the Choctaws, the Creeks, the Chickasaws, and the Seminoles, to territories west of the Mississippi. Citizen groups from all over the United States sent hundreds of petitions to Congress, condemning the bill as immoral and destructive.
Kadong,
To yi sanioski dari uchi.
kakski na niwe.
Igada ani chuja anioski dorge gatinana dahi andiha.
Ah, tiskin gundu kay chili, hiskesni, taskin gundu.
In May of 1830, the Indian Removal Act passed in the House by only 5 votes. Days later, President Jackson signed it into law. The bill stated that the United States would not violate any prior treaty of any tribe. Chief John Ross and Cherokee leaders took steps to uphold their guaranteed rights. The Cherokee would now fight removal by taking their case to the Supreme Court of the United States. It was a landmark case that was to define Indian sovereignty for centuries to come. Worcester versus the state of Georgia. In March of 1832, Chief Justice John Marshall delivered the majority opinion.
The Cherokee Nation is a distinct community, occupying its own territories with boundaries accurately described, in which the laws of Georgia can have no force.
The decision was unequivocal. Georgia had no jurisdiction over the land or the government of the Cherokee Nation. But in Washington, Andrew Jackson ignored the Supreme Court's decision and continued to advocate removal. Jackson had told a Georgia congressman,
Build a fire under them. When it gets hot enough, they'll move.
7 months after the Supreme Court ruled that Cherokees were clear owners of their land, Georgia held a lottery. The prize? Cherokee land. Thousands signed up. In Cherokee country, lucky lottery winners were soon collecting their winnings and moving Cherokees out of their homes. If Cherokees did not go voluntarily, the Georgia militia used force.
You Indians, get out of here! Get out of here! Get out of here! Get out of
Many
here!
Cherokee families found themselves homeless in their own country. Eager to move the Cherokees out, Georgia citizens intensified their harassment. Cherokee leaders sent a letter to the federal government pleading for protection.
The lowest classes of white people are flogging the Cherokees with cowhides, hickories, and clubs. We are not safe in our house.
Cherokees faced a crisis that pushed them to a breaking point. Some Cherokee leaders saw their nation crumbling under the oppressive laws of Georgia, and in a desperate effort to get the best deal possible, negotiated a removal treaty. At New Echota in December of 1835, this small group of Cherokees signed a treaty. In their eyes, they did it to save their nation, but with 90% of Cherokees strongly opposed to removal, they did it in violation of Cherokee Nation law. When the New Echota Treaty was sent to the Senate for ratification, the Cherokee people took action. A petition was signed by almost 90% of the Cherokee people. Hundreds of pages were sewn together.
Akilisi, iwesek yondo atune.
Edudu, hida go hweli, atio hihi, nikada, dulodoe, dikji legi, letat ostai, disco efioli, eliga, igapados tada. Rawr!
Oh, ganda niya. I think you still there.
The petition was taken to Congress by Cherokee Chief John Ross.
Ako huel si dedo huelisco. Like a yellow stars. Kega dahisi.
Bedonha.
Ta wat ta se utsked yellow nas. Dego huelan dega doing.
The Cherokee Nation had won their case in the Supreme Court. They had shown the federal government that the majority of their people did not want to move. But it was not enough. The Senate ratified the new Ichota Treaty. Now the Cherokees would be forced to leave. 2 years later, in May of 1838, 6,000 federal and state militia troops entered Cherokee country. On the 26th of May, the roundup began.
Yes, ocean do gaston. Hello, also ocean do gaston. Yes.
Soldiers captured men, women, and children and marched them from their homes. Cherokees were held at nearby forts and then forced into large prison camps near river docks. Within weeks, 16,000 Cherokees had been taken captive. Lieutenant John Phelps assisted in the roundup.
I could not but think that some fearful retribution would come upon us. The scene seemed to me like a distempered dream, or something worthy of the dark ages than the present reality.
Cherokees were to be transported west on barges, but after 2 detachments had left, drought rendered the river level too low. On the 3rd detachment, soldiers marched over 1,000 Cherokees 200 miles downstream to waiting barges. It was hot. Before the detachment reached the west, 146 Cherokees had died. At the prison camps, the heat and the drought postponed the march. At Fort Cass and Ross's Landing in Tennessee, the camps grew to hold as many as 4,000 Cherokees each. Cherokees had no access to their medicine or traditional food. Diseases broke out. The Cherokee missionary, Daniel Buttrick, visited the camps and offered assistance.
Half the infants, 6 months or a year, and all the aged over 60 had been killed directly, and 1/4 of the remainder. There seems to be no place, nor means, nor time for the recovery of any who are now sick.
Determined Cherokees refused to surrender their lives, their nation, and their spirit to the impending doom. At the Fort Cass prison camp, the Cherokee Council met. They passed a resolution affirming their nation. Chief John Ross then made a daring request to General Winfield Scott. He asked that the Cherokees be allowed to manage their own removal. Scott agreed. In late summer, the first of 13 detachments departed the prison camps under the management of the Cherokee Nation. The last detachment left in December. Wagons carried the sick and elderly. The weather turned bitter cold. It was to be the harshest winter in years. The trail wound along dusty roads, over hills, through the bitter cold of winter and discouraging, relentless rain and wind, across Tennessee, Kentucky, Illinois, Missouri, and Arkansas. In March of 1839, the last detachment arrived in the new territory. Although the march was over, the hardships continued. Setting up life in a strange land took its toll, and many more Cherokees died during the first year. Most had marched over 800 miles. These routes, won by water, carried 12 to 13,000 Cherokees. Conservative estimates indicate that at least 2,000 Cherokees died as a result of removal. Yet, if their culture was to survive, they had no choice but to start again. So in 1838, the Cherokee people began the slow process of reconstructing their entire society. For many other Indian tribes, the Trail of Tears reflects their story. An estimated 70,000 Indians, including many other tribes all over the United States, were forced from their homelands. Each endured devastating hardships. To ensure that this tragedy and the events along this trail are not forgotten, the United States Congress in 1987 passed a bill to establish the Trail of Tears National Historic Trail. The National Park Service administers the protection, interpretation, and preservation of the trail. With several thousand miles of land and water routes, visitors can learn more about the Trail of Tears at a wide variety of sites. Places like Blythe Ferry, Tennessee. From August to November 1838, more than 9,000 Cherokees and Creeks paid to cross the Tennessee River on a small ferry here. Village Creek, Arkansas, where thousands of weary feet cut a deep trail through the earth. Pea Ridge, Arkansas, near the end of a long and devastating journey, exhausted Cherokees gathered strength to cover the final miles. These are just a few sites that have been protected as a reminder of the grim realities of the Trail of Tears. Over the years, the Cherokee Nation and its people have rebuilt and transformed. Today, they are one of the largest Indian populations in the United States. The Cherokee Nation has regained many of its sovereign rights and is one of the largest employers in eastern Oklahoma. Throughout it all, Cherokees have remained connected to their traditional values. Here, one will not hear the anguished voice of a forgotten and broken people. Instead, one might hear the pride of a people who faced overwhelming adversity and persevered. In the mountains of North Carolina is the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians, comprised in part of descendants of those Cherokees who escaped the roundup and hid in the mountains. Today, as with their Western relatives, they have flourished while retaining their culture. The story of the Trail of Tears reveals one of the darkest chapters of American history. It uncovers events of devastating oppression, injustice, and cruelty. But this story also brings to light acts of humanity and courage. It reveals an enduring spirit of people that transcends race. And today, if we explore this story and keep it alive, it will not only serve as a stern caution, it may also inspire.